Hey, what's going on, team? It's Ricky with TechBud Solutions, and we have a special guest today. His name is Nick Palladino. You guys have seen him on the YouTube channel before. He actually has a YouTube channel that he just started when it comes down to investing in real estate, and I think he's invested in 2 properties, working on the 3rd one, so make sure you check that out. But just like you asked in yesterday's video, you wanted more beginner-friendly content. So I thought that I would bring, what would you say your experience level is?
I would say I'm pretty similar to Ish, which was, I would
say beginner to intermediate,
yeah,
right?
Right in that little threshold.
I would say you have some long-term investments, right? But you do like to pay attention to a couple of day trades. One of the things that you also share in common with Ismael is that you like to stay very micro-focused on specific stocks and ETFs. Do you want to explain very quickly what that is?
So, like what he was saying with a lot of my long-term investments, that's what I've been doing for a couple of years, but I've been doing a lot of the short-term investments ever since I started watching his channel a couple of years ago, and I've been really getting into that, and that's why I would say I would probably be right around the same, sorry, that's my phone, the same level of experience as Ish. But I really follow like the Qs is what I call them, the TQQQ and SQQQ, which basically follows the overall market. I think that stems from me being a long-term investment in a lot of bigger companies for the last couple of years. That just gives me more confidence in my trading, knowing the market overall, so that just makes me feel comfortable. So that's why I think I fell towards more trading those ETFs.
And one of the things that I want to expand on is because he has such a big focus, even years ago, before he even met me, on long-term investing, when he was introduced, if I'm not mistaken, it was probably myself or our channel that introduced you to /NQ, right, which is the NASDAQ future, and then the correlating ETFs, which are TQs and SQs. And if you don't understand the correlation, when the market goes up or when NASDAQ goes up, TQs goes up. So it's a leveraged ETF. But when the market sells off, the inverse SQs goes up. And the really cool thing about this is that when the market is selling off, you can still make money by focusing on SQs instead of TQs. But although he has his long-term plays already invested, if he has the time and if he wants to make time for it, he then can at least take advantage of SQs or TQs simply by focusing on direction, which is still within his own means because again, he has such a big focus on overall market direction, just overall shorter term plays when it comes down to trading SQs and TQs.
Yeah, I would say it's exactly similar to DGAS and UGAS with natural gas, as opposed to it's just the overall market, the NASDAQ market, it's the Qs.
Definitely. One of the things that I do want to say is that when it comes down to, I focus on /NG and DGAS and UGAS. Those are triple leverage, and in my opinion, they're a little bit more of a higher risk, higher reward. When it comes down to big movements on TQs and SQs on a given day, it might move like on average 1 or 2% for the triple leverage ETF for TQs and SQs. When it comes down to natural gas, especially during a natural gas report, we can see a fluctuation of 6 to 10%. Last week we saw a fluctuation of over 20%. So again, you have to understand that we are all wired in different ways, and the really cool thing about this is that you don't have to trade what I trade just because you like my content on YouTube. There's a series of things that he liked about my trading style, but he built his foundation off of that and he expanded on something that he saw more value in, and that's always the goal. The goal is to be self-sufficient, not to have to ask people what to do. So what I wanted to do today is actually ask Nick. He has his long-term plays, but when it comes down to him trading /NQ, TQs, and SQs, what are the top 2 indicators that you focus on, and why do you use them?
So I would say the very first indicator that I always look towards is the SMA line. I have it set at 180 days. This also comes into play not only on my day trades, but I actually look at it on the longer term chart as well. So this SMA line that I follow is pretty much for all my trades. I always have a look at it. It just depends on the time frame of the chart that I'm looking at. And then the EMA line. I really like that. It follows a little more closely to the actual pattern of what's going on. So that the SMA line moves a little bit slower, and then the EMA line follows my patterns more closely. I'm a big trader on just specifically like candlesticks and patterns alone, and then these 2 indicators just really just confirm the trade, and I really just make sure I look at them before I actually enter a trade. But a lot of the trading I do is just strictly based on the actual pattern itself and the candlesticks alone. So these indicators are just confirmations for me a lot of the times.
I like that. So him by, again, having a big focus on /NQ, TQs, and SQs, he can then focus on SMA line, which I do agree for more of your long-term investments. If you guys have ever wanted to learn more about effective indicators for long-term investments, I would say the most commonly used indicator is the SMA line, since it does tend to move a little bit slower. Now, it makes sense that for his day trades, he might want to focus a little bit more on the EMA line, which is the exponential moving average, which again moves a little bit quicker or exponentially, right, when it comes down to overall price action, overall movement for that given day.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do want to expand on is he said that he uses these indicators as just like confirmation, right? One of the things that we want to empower you to do is that indicators are to be used as a reference. At the end of the day, direction is key, and if something is showing signs of an uptrend, it doesn't matter what an RSI, an EMA, or an SMA is saying. If there's momentum and there's continuous demand and the overall direction is still bullish, it will most likely continue to uptrend, and it is very naive for you to try to take a position just because of a specific indicator. So although we might have our preference and other people might have their opinions about what indicators are most useful for their trading style, at the end of the day, in our experience, indicators are to be used as a reference, never to buy or sell a specific stock, especially as you're just getting started. So when it comes down to using the EMA indicator, I know for day trading it's a very useful indicator for myself. So in your experience, why is it out of the two for day trading that you tend to find that one, I think, the most effective?
Yeah, you were saying earlier that it follows the actual, like the day a lot closer than the SMA. So I really look at the EMA when I'm entering a trade to see if there's going to be any resistance on it. If there's a trade that I'm potentially going in on, but I see the EMA line as a possible resistance, I might wait it out, see what happens. It could still bleed out, or vice versa on that. If I see a potential pattern and I see the EMA line maybe creating a support on that, then it just kind of gives me a little bit more confidence and confirmation on that specific trade. Like I said, I trade off patterns a lot of the time, but then the EMA line will come in handy for support and resistance of that specific trade. I'm like, oh man, maybe it's going to bounce off this EMA line. I see a lot of resistance right there. Maybe I'll wait it out a little bit longer to see what happens. Who knows, it could pull right back up, or the stock could keep bleeding out. So I really use the EMA line just for like support and resistance and just confirming that trade.
I like that. So again, at the end of the day, when it comes down to these specific indicators, I think that with the series of mistakes that a lot of beginners make when they're just getting started, patience, confirmation, and overall discipline is something that a lot of beginners might struggle with. These indicators just might ease the transition of why it's so important to wait for confirmation. And an example we can give you is, natural gas. Right now, natural gas is selling off. Everyone's anticipating for it to find a support and for it to pick back up. And when natural gas picks up, gas picks up. But at the end of the day, it's very naive for you to just try to buy the dip when something is still selling off. So what you can do is you can set your alerts when it breaks above the EMA line. It can then empower you to be patient, and it can reward you with, again, if it does continue to drop, you at least don't enter too early where something can continue to bleed, and it kind of instills the discipline of the importance of confirmation. All right, Nick, I really do appreciate you kind of talking about your top 2 favorite indicators. Don't forget, if you guys don't follow Nick and you want to subscribe to his YouTube channel, he just started a YouTube channel in his experience of investing in real estate. So he's learned a lot. He's actually working on getting his real estate license, but he still has so much more to learn. So if you want to be a part of that journey, we're going to link that with the first link down below. I hope that you guys smash that like button. If you guys want to see more beginner-friendly videos, all you have to do is drop a thumbs up and make sure you comment down below what you guys want to see next. Don't forget to join our free investing group. We're the largest one on Facebook with over 270,000 members, and that's going to be that second link down below. I appreciate you guys' time, and like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take it easy, team.
See you guys.